Okay, so what's my question? So
Who put this schedule together?
that might have been us all together. Ian, what on earth?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As you were saying then, and I'm Darshana, by the way, I was like, why are you telling me? I was like, of course you are. Sorry, I forgot what we're doing.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Naked Coach Collective podcast. Today is a really special day. It's one of our own Ian Whitehead is going to be talking to us about his story, his journey, and how he got to where he is now working with three young girls creating podcasts about coaching.
I think I deserve a thunderous applause
Yeah,
right
well,
there.
I might be able to edit one in. So,
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be one on the software.
Ian, it's so lovely to be able to interview you because I know that you've got loads to talk about coaching and wider as well. So, you're here, by the way. I'm Dashna and one of your TNCC hosts as well. And all right, here we go. So, Ian, thank you very much for talking to me today. I am a big fan of yours. I love your work, and you coach me too, for which well, I mean, we have a lot of breakthroughs, and so I know that coaching is your bag. But what have you done? What have you done to get you to this point? Start from the beginning.
From the very beginning,
Well, let's get you out
way
of
back
nappies.
when.
Let's get you out of nappies.
Yeah. So I was back in 2011, I think it was. So we're talking well over a decade now. I was driving lorries for a living, and it was good when it was good. And I loved driving. Absolutely loved it. I just loved being out on the road, kind of free to do what I wanted. Um, but it was tough money wise. Um, and I was living with a couple of friends from university, and they'd come back from a holiday themselves, and then we just got a kind of like a huge map and just laid it out on the floor like a map of the world.
Yeah.
And we're like, right, where are we going? And from that moment, there's just like this pull inside of me to be like, right, I have to do this. I've always known that I liked exploring and all that kind of thing. Um, so it's like, I have to do this. This is something that I have to do. No one's going to stop me. I don't care what I have to do to be able to do it, but I'm going to do it. And I basically quit the job of driving because it wasn't good enough for money. And bearing in mind at the time I wasn't on good wage or anything. I didn't have anything saved up. But my mother, bless her, as awful as this was at the time, I moved back home, and I slept on the couch. I thought I'm not taking a bedroom, because taking a bedroom to me felt like I was taking a backward step on top of taking a backward step of going to live back home with my mother. So I slept on the couch for a year. Bless her, she let me. And I just basically did nothing for a year and saved up and saved up and saved up and worked my backside off doing a job that was so soul destroyingly boring, but was good
Mm,
money and
mm,
allowed me to save up. So I was essentially checking tires on lorries and coaches and stuff and buses, all that kind of stuff to make sure that they were roadworthy. And if they weren't, I'd call engineers to come out and change the tires, that kind of thing. It was so soul destroyingly boring looking at tires for 8 hours a day
wow.
at like 2 in the morning, because you can't do it when they've gone out onto the road. So I did that for the year, but then I managed to save up. I think it was probably about 10, 12 grand
Wow.
over the course of 12 months. And then we went away, and then I was traveling for a year, and I had the absolute time of my life when we were traveling. And then I eventually ran out of money and had to come home, unfortunately. But I landed a job. Well, I say I landed. I took the first job that would take me, really, which was on, I think it was 13. 13,500 at the time when I first started. And yeah, I kind of just fell into being the dog's body of the office. So I was basically everyone's bitch. So
Okay.
I was helping out in marketing, I was helping out in projects, I was going out, I went out with the engineers for a day to see what they were doing.
Mm.
Um, and then I fell into helping sort maintenance contracts and all this kind of stuff for what we were doing.
Yeah.
Um, and then I got into projects more and more and kind of thought to myself, I really like this. It's
Mm.
challenging. You get to deal with different people every day. So it's not the same job every single day, which is something I hate. Um, and so I kind of forced them into promoting me into becoming a project manager. So I would go in at, I think it was about 6:30 in the mornings. I'd go into the office before anyone was there and I'd be studying for my project management qualifications. And then I wouldn't leave the office until like 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then I'd be working when I got home as well. Um, so I was, yeah, kind of forcing them to promote me really.
Yeah.
And I was luckily good at what we were doing as well. So, well,
Yeah.
I say that people tell me, people tell me I don't know whether they're just blowing smoke. But yeah, so I eventually got promoted to project coordinator and then made my way up the kind of ladder
Mm.
to become a senior project manager and basically quadrupled my wage. Um, and that was in within like 3 or 4 years. And then I was a project manager for however long it was from there. Um, but that got me to a point of I was working my backside off to get there, and then that kind of started hindering me once I was there because I was still working my backside off. But the higher you climb, and the reason you get paid more is because it comes with more responsibility and more stress and decisions that you make, and especially in the role that I was doing as a project manager, and we were doing like kind of like blue light stuff. So for ambulance services and police and that kind of thing, there's literally potentially people's lives on the line with decisions that you're making. So it gets quite intense when things go wrong. Um, and it's just a very stressful role. And it was in our coaching session, our very first one. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I'll mention it again because it was a real kind of light bulb breakthrough moment for me. Was discovering that I was carrying around a saying that my dad said to me when I was working with him when I was probably about 8 or 9. I was working with him on the peat works
Right.
on the weekend, just essentially lifting blocks of peat up and stacking them into like a wall, a huge roll for like 50 meters or something, whatever it was. Um, and he just said, there's a difference with hard work and working hard. And then there's the added element of working hard at hard work. And in his eyes, hard work was manual labor.
Mm.
So it wasn't sitting behind a desk. And so he's obviously just trying to instill in me just hardworking values and making sure that I worked my backside off to get to a position where he would not be. He never got to. Um, so he's just trying to do it coming from a good place. But I obviously internalized that somehow and kind of took it to the extreme. Whereas, because I just thought to myself, well, I'm sat behind a desk, so it's not hard work. So I need to work extra hard. And so then I was working late into the evenings, weekends. Um, yeah, and it just got to a place where I'd log off in the evening and my head would just be like a buzzing fog of noise. It was horrible.
Yeah.
I'd not want to talk to anyone. I just want to sit in complete and utter silence. Um, I wouldn't want to talk to my partner. So, I mean, God knows how she felt about it. She probably hated me. Um, and then when we had that session and you helped me realize that I'd been carrying that saying around with me, it was just like, oh my God, what have I been doing? But it was like it was a good limiting belief initially
Mm.
because it got me to where I got to, but then started hindering me. And then as soon as we had that conversation, I changed my whole way of working, and I was like, no, I'm literally going to do the hours I'm paid for. Obviously, if I need to work over, I will. I've not got a problem with that, but I'm not going to voluntarily do it just to kind of keep up with things, or just to try and get ahead of the curve, that kind of thing. I was just going to do what the job paid me for.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, and then the pandemic hit, COVID and what have you, and I thought, well, now's a good time to. Now I'm not traveling to the office. I can set up an online business. Um, and yeah, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just going from one thing to another. So I'd buy an online course, thinking, oh, I can do that, and
Mm.
then it didn't work, and then I'd do a different thing, and then a different thing, and then a different thing. So I ended up doing like five or six things. Um, and yeah, kind of then fell into the world of coaching. Um, some ad popped up for the coaching masters on social media. I thought I'll give it a try. Looked into it, and I really liked because you can go onto their coach flicks, can't you? And I really liked the introduction as to what coaching was. I might have said this before. I thought it was just some kind of hippie tree hugging type
Yeah.
stuff, so I wasn't really interested
No, you have.
that much. I thought I just because it was so cheap, I thought, oh, let's just give it a try and see what it's like.
Yeah.
And then I thought, wow, this is really, really good. And then we obviously had the session, and I thought, wow, this is really powerful. Um, and it was with, and off the back of that, sorry, I kind of got another coach myself, and they helped me realize that I was missing certain things, in my kind of clarity around what I wanted to do and my vision and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, oh, is this what I've been missing the whole time I've been trying to set up my online business? And now I've applied this to the coaching realm. It's kind of working for me, which is why I now kind of do what I do, in helping people who are in the same situation as I was. Um, and yeah, that's where I am now. So yeah, that's my introduction. Bit long-winded.
No, I mean it's good to know your backstory actually, because what it shows is you well there's a little bit of a imbalance there in a sense, because your tenacity at saving money to go traveling, your tenacity at getting ahead in your company and doing your project management courses, and you really wanted those. So I can see where you talk about your other coach um talking about finding your vision. You tried 4 or 5 other things that didn't work. They just weren't obviously aligned with your vision. So then you found coaching, and all of a sudden overnight things changed, or what?
No, well, it kind of was, and it kind of wasn't. So it was the more and more I started watching the videos on Coach Flicks. It was kind of like, right, I really like this. Um, and the best way I can describe it is I mentioned earlier about the traveling
Yeah,
when we got that map out and we
yeah,
were planning out routes of where to go to, and I was like, right, I have to do this. And I had that kind of like internal physical kind of gut feeling and a pull to say, you've got to do this. It's kind of like that.
yeah,
That's how it was for me. And then on top of that, the coaching sessions where they were helping me align that pull and the will to do it with what my bigger picture is, for myself and how I see it all over the next however many years. So it's kind of like that's the best way I can describe it. Really, it's like that pull.
that
That
pull.
is, I have to do this. There's no kind of two ways about it.
And there's no other option. So
No,
your your main driver for the coaching was what it did for you, or what you could do for other people, or how, just because you know exactly what the power of coaching is. What's your main
it's
driver?
the yeah. Sorry, it's a mixture of the excitement of what it can do after. Like, I know it sounds such like a trivial thing, that light bulb moment that I had in our session. It's like, oh yeah, you've been carrying around the same from your dad, but I cannot tell you the kind of just flip in my head that had, and I was like, wow, this is so good.
I love that.
So it's the excitement of being able to help other people find that within themselves, aligned with what I want for myself and my family as well. So it's a mixture of the two things really. It's like what I want for me and my family moving forwards, but that will and excitement to help other people find those light bulb moments that I was having
Yeah,
earlier. And it's because, yeah, it's so powerful. Like I say, it was just like, wow, this is so good. I want to help other people have that, but I want to help them, um, in the same way that I was with the same things that I was struggling with at the time.
And that is that because you have the knowledge of having been through all of that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I was when I was going through all these different types of online business models, I was just like, oh my God. Some of them was I was just like, this is so boring, just not me. And then you've got
Mm.
every man and his dog telling you you've got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do social media, you got to do Facebook ads, you've got to do videos, you got to do blogging, you got all this stuff.
Yeah,
There's so much noise and
yeah.
crap out there. Apologies, Mum. She doesn't like it when I swear. If she still listens, I know she listened to the first two. She might have logged off now.
Stop listening.
Um, but there is so much noise out there. It's just so confusing and overwhelming for people. And other people get it, and that's absolutely great for them. They get it. They know what they want to do anyway, and they just crack on and they're successful and what have you. And that's great, and more power to them. But I want to help the people that were like me, that were so confused by all the noise that is out there and the overwhelm, because you can strip it back to be so simple. But for me, before you do that, you've got to strip you back to
Mm,
find out what you want, because that is going to be what drives you when things do get tough. Because, like I say, you can strip it back and it's so simple, but there's still times when it's going to be tough. Still times when you're not going to know if you can carry on because maybe you're running out of money or whatever that issue is. You're still going to get issues, but that driver that sits behind it all, that foundation, is what I really want to help people with. And then I can help them with all the million strategies that I've learned from all these all these online courses that I've taken. Or I could just point them to these other experts to help them. And then I can, if people want it, I can help them like plan a launch, because that's basically what I was doing as a project manager. I've got the kind of professional qualification to help people plan out a full launch for their business, really. So I can help them with that as well. But yeah, no, that's what it is, really. I just want to help people build that foundation before they take the next step of what business do I want to set up. Are you currently trying to start an online business, but you have absolutely no idea where to even start? So what do? You end up watching lots of different people tell you hundreds of different things that you should do. Have you ever noticed that these people all have the blueprint, the key to success, that magic bullet that will take you from 0 to 10k months in no time at all? So what do? You get sucked in and you sign up to their free ebooks, their challenges, their courses. You follow their advice, and then what happens? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So what do you do then? You go to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. Nothing ever working. You go from one guru to the next. And sooner or later, you get to a point where you've tried tens of different strategies, none of which have worked, all leaving you in exactly the same position that you're in now. Well, let me share a truth bomb with you that I share with my clients. A truth bomb that none of these gurus will tell you. One that has helped me go from exactly where you are now to having and owning my own online business and making money. You have to stop following all the gurus' advice, all the blueprints, until you have started to follow your own pathway to success. Now, why do I say this? Well, these people do have good strategies, but why is it not working for you? The reason it's not worked for you is because they followed their own path, their own blueprint. You should follow your own. Until you know what your pathway is, how can anything work for you? How do you know what strategy to implement if you don't know where you're heading? If you don't know what your why is? And this is what they don't teach you. Only once you know what your big why is, can you then implement all these different strategies? Implement them into a business that you have designed around what you truly want and what matters to you. Look, if this video has resonated with you and you're interested in learning the 4 key secrets that will set you on your own pathway to success, all you got to do is click the link in the show description and it'll take you straight to the next page. And I will explain in more detail what I have to offer that can get you started on your own journey, your own pathway to success. I'll see you in there.
So Can you give us an example, potentially from maybe a client or your experience of where something you've done has had an impact? So, for example, if you've got a client that you're working through this process with that you've just explained, you know, because if I'm listening, as a listener, I'm thinking, okay, so give me a practical example. You did this, they did this, and this was the outcome, kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. So, um, as part of what I do, I kind of go through certain steps. And the first step is about building an impossible dream. And then we go on to your core values, and then figuring out what your purpose is, and then building a vision around all of that. So I've had a couple of clients where those sessions they've been so easy because they're already kind of clued up into what they want and all this kind of stuff. So they already know and they don't really need my help that much there. They just need more help on the mindset side of things and then the launching of the business. But what I really like is when people are kind of like a blank slate and they don't know what they just know that there's something more for them and they just know that they have to do something, kind of like I do with that pull to do something. For me, it was coaching, but they don't know what that is yet. So it's figuring out what that is. So we go through the process of talking about, well, what's your impossible dream? If you could do anything and you could not fail,
Hmm.
if there was no limits, you knew that you would not fail, what would your business and life look like for you?
The reason I'm laughing.
You're laughing at me now. What's
No,
going
no,
on here?
no, I'm laughing because you asked me that question. Do you remember what I said?
I can't know.
Oh, it was such a long time ago now. I said to you, this was we didn't even know each other that well, and you'd asked me this question. I thought, oh my God, I've never been asked such a question before. And, and I said I wanted to run a, a bar, a beachside bar in the Bahamas or
That
in
rings a bell. Yeah, that rings a
yeah,
bell.
in
Yeah.
the Caribbean somewhere, just serving the locals and um yeah, I remember that. And because it's just something you plant something, and that made me think I've got a free spirit, I've got this sort of it just it gives you a knock-on effect of thinking about things. So when you say that to your client and they have this blue sky thinking or whatever you want to call it, and all of a sudden I'm in that bar wearing like flowy robes and braided hair and dishing out free drinks to everyone, I was like, this was my impossible dream. And it's a really great place to start from a mental perspective. So you give your clients a lot just in that one question.
Yeah, and some clients find it really hard. They really, it's not that they don't like answering the question, it's just they don't know how to answer the question.
Right.
And when I say they don't know how, they don't know how because they've never thought that
Mm.
there's no limits. So they've always placed limits on what they're able to do. So when you come at them with, no, stop,
Yeah.
forget that issue, forget that limiting belief is what we call it, obviously, that you're not good enough at doing this. What if you were good enough, and what would that lead to? What is impossible to you? I want to know what that impossible dream is because shoot for the stars, you'll land on the moon, right?
Exactly.
So I want to know what that impossible dream is that we can build towards. Because what's the point in building towards something that isn't impossible?
Well, exactly. You're always going to be chasing, aren't you?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So you're always going to be pushing yourself and pushing yourself to the next level. And so when we've gone through that and we've kind of understood what their impossible dream is, and some of the stuff people come out with is hilarious. They, there was this one lady, um, and she was absolutely sure she wanted to create an online business, which is why she signed up with me. But
mm.
when we got speaking and I was asking her about her impossible dream, it had nothing to do with an online business, nothing whatsoever. What she really wanted to do was help animals that are left to fend for themselves on the streets. And I
Oh.
was like, so you want to set up a charity or an organization to help animals? And she was like, oh yeah, I suppose I do. I was like, okay. That's
Get off my course.
because initially she was talking about selling ebooks online and stuff like that. I'm like,
Yes.
and then
No.
it's the places you can go from there. Well, not me, but the client can go from there.
Mm.
Um, it's yeah, it's really quite funny sometimes what they come out with
Yeah.
after they've already given me an idea of what they want, because I ask them to come onto the call telling me what they want from the call and what kind of business they're looking for. But then when we get into that impossible dream talk, it can go completely sideways from there. But yeah, she's well on her way to. So I don't really help her with the setting up of that business now. I'm just helping her with kind of the mindset side of things. And she's working with somebody else to help her set up that business because I don't have experience in setting up that kind of thing. So I don't want to give her kind of false information, really. So I just help her with the mindset side of things, and while someone else is helping her set up the charity. It's so weird.
But you know what? Don't you find that people need to be given that permission to think big? And then
Mm,
when you find that, because look, I can see that there's a lot of people I know who would be thinking, oh, okay, I need to do something. An online business is likely to make me money, so I'm going to do that. And then they come
yeah.
to you, and you realize because you ask those probing questions, you realize that it's not they're not doing it for passion, they're not doing it for love or for have to do that because I can't do anything else. They're doing it to make a crust and to get, to get by.
Yeah, so so after, like I say, after we've gone through that impossible dream, we kind of go into the core values and figuring out what they are of people. And it's like, well, what do you want? And you kind of get into that conversation with them. And they're obviously saying, well, I want this, and then they kind of start to go into, but I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. And obviously you know this, but it's like, no, 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 stop. Don't care what you don't want. Don't care. We're not here for that. What do you want? And the kind of first response is, I want to make money.
Mm,
I want to quit my job. I want to leave my 9 to 5 and I want to provide for my family. That is the basic answer.
mm,
90% of the time I've done this so far. Um, but then when you dig deep, because you've got to dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's like, well, what would that get for you when you do leave your job, when you do quit your job, when you do start to make money, what will that get for you? And you dig deeper and deeper. Um, and everyone's answers almost to a T are completely different. They're almost, it's people, some people it is wanting to make money and they just cannot get away from that. And that's fine, absolutely fine for them. If that's what it is for them, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. And some people it's providing for the family.
mm,
Um, but it's providing for the family for a different reason. So, for instance, we had this one guy and he wanted to provide for his family, and his answer was, "I just want to provide for my family." He answered it like 4 or 5 times.
mm.
I was really struggling to understand what question I could ask him to help dig deeper, but I can't remember what it was. But we eventually got out of him, and it was like because he didn't want to be seen as his dad. We must have spent about 45 to 50 minutes on just trying to get to that one level deeper than I just want to provide for my family. And it's like, why? You could see he was getting frustrated because he's like, why are you not listening to me? But it's like, you'll find out why I'm not listening to you.
Do
there's,
you
there's
feel,
always something behind the first thing you say, right?
yeah, that's what I'm going to ask you. Do you feel like you have uh, a bit of a superpower? You or even as a coach in general, do you think there's a bit of a superpower there to be able to know when a person's not done telling you what they want?
Um,
That's why.
I wouldn't call it a superpower.
Mm.
Um, it's more of, I don't know, art form kind of sounds a little braggy. It's kind of an intuition.
Yeah.
You kind of know. It's like there's been a couple of times when, as an example, when we've had
Mm.
conversation and you've given an answer and I've just not said anything, and you've been uncomfortable and you're going, why are you looking at me?
Those of you who are
Why are you
not
looking at me?
watching,
And it's like, well, come on. There's
Dee's
obviously
rolling
something
her
else you
eyes.
want to
Yeah.
say. But I don't know, you just kind of get
Yeah.
and you get better at this the more you do it as well, obviously, which is why, people everyone needs to practice
Mm.
coaching. But yeah, I feel like it's more of an intuition. I wouldn't label it a superpower. That just kind of sounds
Oh,
kind
I
of
like
braggy.
super. No, but I kind
I'm
of
not a
like super.
braggy person.
Well, I mean, I was offering that title to coaches in general who are able to sort of push and push and push until they know that their client has really dug deep. And when you said about your guy not wanting to be like his father, I really thought somewhere deep down inside, did you know that he wasn't done yet? And do you think he knew? Because sometimes when I'm talking to, having a coaching conversation, you know, I'm pushing because I think they know, but they don't want to say.
I don't want to say,
They
yeah.
don't want to say. And it's really, you have to make them feel really safe and, and just sort of say, you can say anything. And even then it can take, like you did, 45, 50 minutes to get it out of him. But he probably already knew. What do you think?
Yeah, there are moments like that, yeah. I think looking back at it, I think that was probably one where because he was getting frustrated and a little angry,
Mm.
and I was just like, we're not moving on until we get to the bottom of this.
In his head, he's thinking, how do I get out of this? What can I tell him to shut
Well,
the fuck
that's it. They start to skirt right. You ask them again, and then you start to like a bloody politician
Yeah,
going around the houses,
yeah.
answering the question, just giving me the same kind of answer, and it's just like, no, 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 stop it,
Good point.
stop it.
Good for you. Good for you. I mean, I'm sure he would have been relieved to get it out eventually.
Possibly, yeah. I imagine so. I
Yeah.
imagine so. But then there's people. So there's people like that, or well, I suppose everybody's got that answer somewhere where they know the answer, but they don't want to say it. And there's people where it's like a genuine shock to them when they're like, "Oh my God, like where did that come from?"
Right. On that note, I'm going to ask you about a real highlight in your coaching career so far, and obviously the other way as well. But I think let's start with a highlight. What would you say has been dramatic?
Dramatic.
Yeah,
It's
dramatic. Come on.
can it be me being the receiving of coaching?
Anything you like. Coaching as a subject that we are, this is our world now, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
anything you want, you think coaching, this
Okay.
is power, and you've had
Well,
a, you know,
that's easy then. It's that first light bulb moment when we were having that coaching session and you were coaching me. That first light bulb moment. It was just it just blew my mind and completely changed how I worked after that. It really did. Honestly, I cannot thank you enough for it. I know I keep saying it, but yeah, it's just a complete game changer for me that moment. It really was. So that's easy question
thank
to answer.
you. Thank you so much. Oh my God, thank you. That's made me a bit hot.
Anyway,
Thank
enough about you. This is my interview.
Listen, mate. We're a team, yeah.
We definitely are.
We're a team. No, okay, so second most dramatic moment then in that case.
Yes. Suppose there was one where she was really struggling with just putting herself out there. So she wants to become a coach herself, and she's on her journey to do that now, and she's doing really well. Um, but she was struggling so much to get out there on social media. Um, and she was kind of like me in a way, and because I hate social media, it
I
just
know.
bores me to tears. Uh, and she was the same. But we kind of dived into it a bit deeper, and she was saying that she just hates the thought of people thinking that she's a stuck-up tosser who wants to tell everybody about her day when no one's interested. You know, that kind of thing, and that she looks down on other people because they're
Yeah,
not living the life she does because she travels a lot. She's got quite a good life, I'd say. So she was scared of people thinking the worst of her. Um, and she really struggled with that, and it was nice to help her get over that. And now, I mean, you should see her now. She's bloody killing it. She's
good.
absolutely killing it online. It's really nice to see.
Lovely. Well done. That's a lovely story. Lovely story. Okay, what about a disaster moment? Has there been any?
Um, I wouldn't say, well, yeah, let's call it a disaster. Why not?
Oh,
Um,
God.
And it's nothing bad, I don't think. I was on with this one client and I gave them this homework to do, and they came back to me the following week and they'd done the homework, but they hadn't done all of the homework. They'd only done a little bit, and we were trying to dig into why they've not progressed as much as they said they were going to progress because they, in that session, when I gave them the homework, they kind of agreed that they had the time to do it. There could possibly be no distractions apart from a family emergency disaster type thing. So they were committed to doing it, but they never finished it all. So we were digging into why that was. And we got so far into it, and I just could not think of what next to ask this person.
Mm.
I just couldn't think of it. And so we never got to the bottom of it. And it really, really drove me insane that I was not able to help them in that moment. Um, yeah, I count that as a disaster because I want to help people.
Mm.
And I wasn't able to help that person in that moment. It really stuck with me. And so after that, because of that, I went on a researching marathon to figure out what to do in that situation again moving forward if I ever come across a client who does that again. So yeah, but at the time that really stuck with me because I wasn't able to help them. But I mean, I was just starting out as a coach.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna know everything. You're not gonna know off top of your head straight away what tool in your tool belt that you learn on the accreditations and all this kind of stuff to use at that particular time to help them.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, it really annoyed me, really peed me off. It did.
But you flipped it around, right? You flipped it around. You went off and you learned, and you grew from that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So as much as it annoyed me, and I kind of chastised, chastised, is that's not the word, is it?
Chastise
Chastised
yourself.
myself.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm
You can
saying. I'm just trying to use fancy words. I was just hard on myself. Um, yeah, I have those moments, and I shouldn't really,
Yeah.
but I have those moments to kind of get rid of my anger at the fact that I wasn't able to help them. But then going back to kind of the whole hard working thing,
Mm.
and then really set out to try and figure out what to do in that situation moving forward. So now I feel like when I come across that situation again, I can handle it, no problem.
Fantastic. That's so fantastic. I mean, it just made me want to ask you, like, what sort of challenges have you got lined up for yourself?
Um, when you say challenges lined up for myself,
Well, two questions really. What more do you want to learn? And I know we're
yeah,
always learning and there's lots to learn and
yeah, yeah,
things, but also in terms of any other kind of goals or challenges from a professional perspective that you might want to share.
yeah. Okay, so in terms of what I want to learn, I think as you can see, I've got books stacked so high. I've got so at the side of me here, I've built two kind of huge shelves. So I am constantly reading
Mm.
about anything and everything I can possibly get my hands on that will help me
Mhm.
better, not just myself, but my ability to help people as well. So and I listen to podcasts all the time. So I'm constantly trying to get better at everything I do, and I'm looking at different things in terms of what do different types of coaches do to help their clients that I may be able to use to help my clients, and not just help my clients but help me as well. So there's obviously limiting beliefs and stuff that I still hold that I'm working on. So I've got a coach that helps me with all that kind of thing as well. So that's kind of part of the learning as well, so because you're figuring out new things. And in terms of challenges, yeah, I've set myself goals that I want to hit within the next 8 months, because I was just basing it on um, quarters. So in the 8 months, I want to launch this online course, which is coming out in June, and I want to make so much money um, as part of that launch
Mm.
to enable me to then put more money into marketing the business and get my name out there even more. Because, like I say, I hate social media, so I'm not really doing it the organic way.
Mm.
Um, I'm kind of am in certain ways, but I'm obviously going down the kind of ads route as well. That's
Yeah.
purely because I've got the money to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You have to have that money to be able to do that if you want to, but yeah, I want to kind of pour that into there and then build up more kind of online courses to help people at a lower price point than taking on the one-to-one coaching, because that's obviously more expensive because you're getting my time helping you on a one-to-one basis, whereas these online courses, they really are good in helping people. But I'm kind of staying away from the use this strategy to do this and use this strategy to do that. It's the kind of foundation things I want to help people with before they get into creating the businesses. All more of the that core values we were talking about and the impossible dream, all that kind of stuff I want to help people with. So I'm kind of creating courses at a lower price point to help people take that first step, because that's the first step on the
Yeah.
ladder, really.
So that course you've got coming out in June, did you say?
Yeah. So it's launching on June the 6th, 5th or 6th, one of the two.
All right, well, listen, give me,
um
yeah, go on.
it's called the Follow Your Own Pathway to Success. And that came from a point of view of I was constantly seeing, follow my blueprint, follow this, follow that, do this strategy, do this strategy. And it's like, no, 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 no.
Mm.
Do your own, follow your own pathway to success, build your own foundation, build your own pathway, and then look at strategies. Because these people are doing all these strategies and they're great. They do work. Obviously, they've worked for them, but there's a reason it's worked for them, and it's because they had the foundation to begin with. And I want to help people get that foundation to begin with. Sorry, you look like you're about to say something
I
the whole
was.
way through I was talking then.
No, no, it's only because I realized that this episode is actually going to be going out after that date, the beginning of June. So this episode is going out middle to late of June. So
Who put this schedule together?
that might have been us all together. No, so this is a perfect opportunity. So your first your is it your first course? I'm not sure, but the course you've got, the one that you've
Yeah.
got out is actually already,
So it will be live now then, yeah.
it will be live. So
Yes.
somebody's listening thinking, oh my God, I really want this. How do they buy it?
So if people want to find the online course, it's at www.ianwhiteheadcoaching.com/ follow your own pathway to success.
Lovely, thank you.
That's it. Thank you very kindly.
You're talking about these courses, that you're setting up. What, and I know that you love a 10-year plan. All right. Anybody that knows Ian, and I'm telling you, Ian loves a 10-year plan. Ian, what's your 10-year plan?
So in 10 years' time, I want to have I'll say the non-business side first, because that's a bit that really kind of inspires me.
Yeah.
So I've got a picture up on the wall, and it's of a lake with mountains and trees around it. And I want to sit in my garden at the edge of a lake, just staring out at peace and quiet. That's all I want. That 10 years, if I get that in 10 years' time, I'll die a happy man.
Right.
So it's kind of the peace and quiet and tranquility of that moment that I want more than anything. Um, and that kind of comes back to all that noise in my head
Mm.
doing the kind of day job stuff. It's just having that peace and quiet for me that is such a big driver. But anyway, sorry, waffling on. So there's that. And then on the business side, it's being able to help people with these couple of online courses. And I'm not going to go overboard and have like 5 or 6. It's just going to be 2, maybe 3, if that. But also run a kind of like a group mastermind,
Right.
rather, and potentially step away from the one-to-one. I'm not decided on that yet, but step away from the one-to-one potentially, and have more of a mastermind to help people. And then run like a kind of retreat once or twice a year, specifically for the mastermind, in whatever amazing location in the mountains somewhere, because that's where I belong.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. Oh, well, to finish off, if you were to give some advice to somebody who's listening now thinking, I like your story. Coaching sounds appealing to me, feels like something that I could do, or I'm already thinking about doing it, already started learning. What advice would you give them?
Um, always be willing to learn.
Mm,
Understand that you don't know everything and you'll never know everything. So everything is an opportunity to learn. Um, Second thing would be short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. The
yes.
start is a pain in the ass. Everyone
Yes.
knows that.
Yeah.
Whenever you see these bloody make 10K in 10 days or whatever it is, it just makes me chuckle.
Mm,
Um, maybe that did happen for them, and I'm just jealous because it didn't happen for me. But 99% of people, it's a slog to start with. So short-term sacrifice for long-term gain.
yeah.
And you've got to work on yourself before you look at what business you want to create. Figure out what you want before you create what business you want, and then you can essentially design the business around what you want. And that's it. Three
Uh,
bits of advice. You're welcome.
Oh, buy one, get two free. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ian. It's been a real pleasure, eye-opener, and well, a real pleasure to interview you. Thank you.
And because Dee's missed this bit, I'll say it. So if you want to reach out to me, you can get in touch with me on my social media platforms, Ian Whitehead Coaching. Contact at Ian Whitehead Coaching, or you can just drop me a message on Instagram or Facebook at Ian Whitehead Coaching on there.
You won't be sorry. So,
That's very kind of you to say.
well, it's the
You know, I'm
truth.
saying that because we host a podcast together. I don't know if you've heard of it, Naked Coach Collective.
Coach Collective. Yeah. Every
You can
Tuesday.
find it at all good podcast outlets and YouTube.
YouTube. We yes, and well, you if you're watching this, you know. So
And if you're listening, you also know.
right, okay, stop fapping. Right, so hold on. So until next time, be there.
Be bare.
Naked.
Be naked.